Hey there, I'm Jackie Ferris. This week on the 302, spring has sprung at Winterthur as we take a deep dive into history, events, and even a little talk about wine. It's going to be a potpourri of fun. Stay tuned. The 302 is straight ahead. He was the Taylor Swift of his time if Taylor Swift was a Revolutionary War general. We're talking, of course, about General Lafayette and what a rock star he is, and it's all coming together in a new exhibit at Winterthur. I'm joined by Corinne Brandt, who curated this show. Corinne, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're able to come and be here.
So, rock star, perfect way to describe him back in the day. Tell us why.
He really was one of America's favorite foreign dignitaries. He came when, at the beginning of the American Revolution. He was just a young man. He was 19 when he arrived, so he had that sort of pop idol kind of quality. And he was just a really passionate young man about the American cause during the Revolution. And he always continued to have a friendship with America and the Americans.
In a lot of ways, he was the symbol of the friendship between the United States and France and helped to get a lot of the funding for the war. Is that right?
That is right, yeah. He was over here and participated locally in the Battle of Brandywine. He was wounded, but showed his courage on the battlefield. He then returned to France and advocated for the American cause. He was able to secure funds and secure the army to come over. He wasn't given direct command, but when he came over, he was a hero of the Battle of Yorktown, which was one of the decisive defeats for the British.
Now, the exhibit itself focuses on his return, is that right? So he was in his 60s. Tell me about, his initial plans. He was only going to visit 13 of the states, right?
That's right. He was an older man. He had returned to France. He had fought in the French Revolution. He had his life wasn't so great after the French Revolution, but he still had this friendship with America. And so President James Madison at the time invited him to come and return to visit some of the sites of his youth. And so he was originally only planning to visit the 13 original colonies, but there was such an outpouring of love and affection, and people really wanted to greet him in all of the states. So he extended his tour. He was here for 13 months,
wow,
traveling to all 24 states.
Now, we have a piece in this exhibit that shows when he gets here, right?
Yes. We have plates that were illustrated with a print that was created to show the arrival of Lafayette into New York Harbor on August 16th of 1824. And so these prints were made at the time, at the moment, and immediately went into production. So if the print was made in 1824, plates and ceramics and pottery were available as soon as 1825, the next year.
Now, off camera, we talked about Corinne's favorite piece, and that would be the handkerchief when he got to Philadelphia.
Yes, that's right. I'm from Philadelphia, and Lafayette has a huge connection here. When he returned, it was coming up on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And so the old State House where the Declaration was signed had fallen into disrepair. And when Lafayette returned, it was kind of a moment to reevaluate how people remembered the American Revolution. And so they revitalized the old State House, and that was the ending point of this huge parade where he came into Philadelphia. And that was the first time it was called Independence Hall.
It's absolutely breathtaking when you look at it, just the detail. All these years later, it's a little faded, but still has a lot of meaning for Americans. Now, when you look at the objects, a lot of them have Lafayette and Washington. Can you talk a little bit about the special bond between the two of them and when he visited Mount Vernon?
That's right. When Lafayette first arrived over in America, he was only 19, and so he had been orphaned at a very young age. And when he came over, he was quickly kind of taken under the wing of Washington, and they've developed a really close familial bond. He was kind of considered as an adoptive son of Washington. And this is how Americans saw them. They saw this familial connection, and so Lafayette was always linked with George Washington. And so the reverence to George Washington was transferred over to Lafayette as well. And during his tour, he did go visit Mount Vernon. He went with his son, who was named George Washington Lafayette, and they visited the tomb of Washington. And there were reports that he entered by himself, and when he came out, he was crying as if he had buried a beloved member of his family.
Now, he also visited with the DuPont family for a very special occasion.
Yes, he was here for a wedding, and family reports that he gave away the bride. And Victor DuPont, who was the brother of E.I. DuPont, the founder of the gunpowder manufactory, Victor was Lafayette's aide-de-camp during the French Revolution. And so he was over here, and Lafayette came to visit his old comrade. And Victor's son, Charles, was getting married on the day that Lafayette was coming to Wilmington. So Lafayette attended the wedding and gave away the bride.
So as far as the DuPont family, H.F. DuPont, who is a massive collector of all things, managed to bring together this amazing collection. This isn't all of it, right?
We certainly have a lot more pieces of Lafayette paraphernalia, or Lafayette mania, as we call it. We have a dresser in one of the rooms that is just filled with plates and teacups and teapots that have Lafayette's image on them.
So did he play a special, hold a special place in H.F. DuPont's heart? Or was he just, you know, it's Americana, I'm going to collect this? I mean, because of the family connection?
I think there were both things. He collected Americana, so he collected images of George Washington, of Franklin, and Lafayette was one of the founding fathers, so he collected that as well. But DuPont also has the French connection to his family, so connecting to his French history. He was involved in the Franco-American Society to celebrate Lafayette's 200th birthday, so there is a connection there as well.
So how long will this exhibit be up? Because I know a lot of people are going to want to come and check it out.
This exhibit will be up until June 1st.
Excellent. Well, Corinne, thank you so much for joining us. We certainly love, hearing about the history of America here at Winterthur. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Laura Ferville. I'm the curator at the Biggs Museum of American Art in Dover, Delaware, and I love the arts on the 302.
Welcome back. If you are a wine lover, then you're definitely going to want to come and check out some of the programming here at Winterthur. I'm joined now by Abigail Miller, who takes care of the events here. Abigail, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there is an exhibit, Wine Through Winterthur, and there are also events that go hand in hand that pair nicely. So kick us off with the one that we have coming up in April.
Sure. So we have Sip and Savor Among the Blooms on April 5th. So that's how we kick off our spring season here. And this is a wonderful and magical experience out within our garden. So we will have wine and cheese pairings in magical places that guests can kind of meander and get lost and just enjoy all that Winterthur has.
So if someone wants to do this, they basically need to come, get themselves a ticket. I would imagine they're limited.
Yes.
To how many tickets?
Yes, so we have a morning session and an afternoon session. So we're opening it up all day so as many people can enjoy it as possible, but they'll just reserve a ticket and then get to even go in the house, go in the exhibition, and then of course enjoy the garden and the event itself.
Now, it really is beautiful this time of year. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about, what the garden is going to look like and what areas we can walk in and that kind of thing?
Of course. So right now we're just starting to see little buds pop up, and by April we're hoping the daffodils will be in bloom. Mr. DuPont was known for his daffodil collection, and he has a world-renowned one here. So that will be something that you can certainly see. And then one of our focal areas will be our sundial garden, which there will be all sorts of blooms and flowers that guests will be able to sit in and enjoy wine.
And it's a perfect event to bring a friend, go on, like you're going on a date, or with your girlfriends even, just to kind of relax. And are we going to learn a little bit about wine while this is happening?
Yes, so we have wonderful wine reps that will be at each tasting station talking about the wine and the producer, so you learn a little bit along the way. And then we're fortunate this year we are going to welcome 3 local artisanal cheese purveyors. So we're going to have U Dairy, the Farm at Doe Run, and Birch Run Hills, and their cheese makers will be there as well for the pairing, so you can learn a little bit about cheese too.
So is U Dairy part of the University of Delaware?
Yes.
So this really feeds into not only educating your guest, but helping the educational programs of the educational places around you, right?
Exactly. We always try with any of our events to tie it back to the mission and have some educational portion associated with it. So you can drink and learn a little along the way.
Fantastic. Well, deep down, I mean, didn't H.F. DuPont have a bunch of wine cellars?
Yes. So although we've never seen any record of vines planted here, he did love his wine. And one of my favorite things is to go in the archives for these events and really tie it back and feature some of these things. So I have an image of a blueprint of a cellar that he transformed during the Prohibition era. It used to be a closet, and so he would keep all of his wine right in there in the 1920s.
So that he wouldn't run out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to, look for it elsewhere. What kind of wine did he traditionally like?
So he loved champagne. And so one of the funny things I read was he always paired his champagne, specifically Krug, with his red meats, which, if you know wine at all today, you usually find a big bold red to pair with any steak or meat dish. But back then, he loved to drink champagne with his meats.
Well, what is a Krug?
So it's a champagne wine, so a sparkling wine from the Champagne region in France.
Oh, nice. Well, you learn something new every single show. So this is happening at the beginning of April, but you have a second event that's coming up.
Yes, so at the end of April, April 27th, we have a new event, Unearthing Floral Aromas. And so this one touches more on education and sensory. So when you think of tasting wine, you smell it, of course, and then you taste it. And so we are diving into the profiles of the wines and kind of picking out the different flavors. And so if you think of a Cabernet Sauvignon, you pick out black fruits or red pepper. And so we're gonna do little hands-on tasting sessions. So whether you're a wine lover, know nothing about it, or are more experienced, you can kind of dive into that experience.
I can imagine that would be pretty cool because a lot of times when you're at a restaurant, you're so caught up in the conversation or what you're eating, and you don't really stop to really take a moment to taste all of the things that make up a good wine.
Right.
And they can be so, from what's blended in it to what's planted in the ground with it. So it's very wide.
Yes, the soil plays a huge impact, climate, sun, rain, it all affects the grapes during the growing process, and then of course in the winery as well. So it's fun to pick out and learn new things, and you learn what you can and take it along the way.
And what a great place to do that. I mean, if you haven't been to Winterthur, you've got to come out because everywhere you look, there's something to take in. We're sitting in the gift shop, there's something to buy or to say, I'm gonna do that when I get home. So it really is a wonderful place to do an event like this.
It really is. And we always for any of our events, we like to think back to what Mr. DuPont did here and what he would envision for it. So he was, aside from a gardener and horticulturalist and collector, he was an incredible entertainer, and he really found his passion within the details of welcoming guests and hosting. So for many of our events, we try and kind of hone in and think of what he would do with that to create a magical experience for people.
Well, every time the 302 crew comes, it's a magical experience. And I love how you host. I don't know if you guys have noticed, there are 2 glasses here. So are we going to have a toast?
Let's toast.
Okay, I'll let you do the toast.
So cheers to Mr. DuPont and his legacy here, and us doing it with a modern twist. And thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. Take a little sip. Fantastic. Now, when we return, we're going to talk about some of the artifacts on exhibit that have to do with wine and H.F. DuPont. Stay with us.
I'm Dr. Melissa Tadone, Library Conservator at Winterthur Museum, Garden and Library, and I love mixing history and science on the 302.
Welcome back. We've been talking about the wine series, Wine Through Winterthur, but now we're going to talk about some of the artifacts that Winterthur has here that kind of talk about the evolution of the culinary art of drinking and serving wine at a meal or whatever. We have our good friend, Leslie Grigsby. Now, Leslie, what is the word? Chinoiserie. She's been on our show a bunch of times. And anyways, so let's talk a little bit about, you know, the traditional wine glass as we know it now didn't start that way.
That's right. There's the wine glasses early on are often much smaller than the ones that we would be using today. If we're looking at some of the ones from the say the 1600s that would have been used in America, they might be quite tiny and have much stronger wine. The wines tasted a lot different than they do now. Those evolved gradually into different shapes. What we think of as a champagne glass, for example, in fact, this is sort of a champagne glass that's next to us here, would not have been used for champagne in those early days. Instead, they would have a tall sort of flute-shaped glass, and some people have seen those today. They also would have not necessarily said, I cannot give you champagne because I don't have a champagne glass, because they might only have one or two glasses in a house, and those might be shared among several drinkers, which is a weird concept to us today.
Yeah. The thing that I think is really cool is how the etiquette of passing a champagne or a wine glass. Can you show us with what we have here?
Yeah, we're using a modern glass here, not something from the collection. But today, everyone at the table would have their own wine glass, and you'd be served and you'd have a drink if you're at dinner. But if you were in a situation where the household couldn't afford to get a wine glass for every member of the event, then you might share it. And so pour the wine in here, you take a sip from it, you would change then to a different holding like this, and you might pass it to the next person.
And how would I grab it?
You would grab it by the stem.
By the stem.
You take your
Take
sip.
my sip, and then I would do like this. It's
And pass to the
amazing
next.
how etiquette changes, you know?
Well, and to us, you know, this is before germs when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
doing
No
that.
germs back then.
So there are all kinds of beverageware and food utensils that you'd all share from together because why not? You only have one. Today we would never do that.
Yeah. Now in the collection, you have so many different kinds of wine glasses and things like that that were used for champagne and all that. Can you tell me a little bit about just how vast this collection is?
Oh, it's a couple thousand pieces that are probably, let's say a few thousand objects that are relating to wine and alcoholic beverageware. So we've got wine glasses, we've got wine bottles, we've got decanters, we have punch bowls, we have different containers that would be used for playing games, like jugs that have puzzles to them, and you would make bets on whether you could drink from them, that sort of thing.
Now we have been back in your office with the glass cases and all the different kinds of chinoiserie, that's two, and glasses and things, and it really must be quite a feat to catalog and maintain and restore. I mean, do you ever find anything new as you're going through all the pieces in the collection?
Oh, we find new things all the time, and new objects come up out in the world too. We still buy objects and accept gifts of objects. We tend to be very narrow in what we bring in because we have almost 90,000 pieces in the collection already, and we like to have things that we can show. But we do, I've been working on some of our porcelain punch bowls, for example, and have been going off to conferences where archaeologists are showing me fragments of similar punch bowls that they've dug up there. So we would match our punch bowl to pieces that might have been at Mount Vernon, let's say, or at one of the other important sites across the country.
It really is amazing when you think about all the history you have in objects. 90,000, that's amazing.
Luckily, I'm only responsible for about 20,000.
Oh, just 20.
So I share
that's
the
all.
wealth with people who know much more about the other areas.
Well, Leslie, we certainly appreciate you sitting down and sharing this history with us. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back. Are you enjoying all this talk about history and wine? Well, if you come to Winterthur to check out any of the events or exhibits, make sure you snap a picture and share it with us on Facebook. Now, here are some other things you might want to check out. For more information on any of the exhibits or events here at Winterthur, visit winterthur.org. That'll do it for this week's episode of The 302. Make sure you follow us on Facebook for some behind-the-scenes content you're just not going to get anywhere else. We're going to leave you now with a beauty shot of Winterthur's koi pond. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on The 302.